What began as an awkward encounter captured on a stadium screen spiraled into the most spectacular corporate implosion Silicon Valley has witnessed in years. Far from ending with the final note of a Coldplay concert, that evening in July marked the beginning of a billion-dollar empire crumbling in plain sight, an unraveling too explosive for any public relations playbook, too raw for anyone involved to ever leave unscathed. At first glance, it seemed inconsequential. Two people shying away from a stadium camera, trying to avoid participating in the evening's lighthearted ritual. But for those who had been watching Astronomer from the inside, that brief, unguarded moment represented something far darker: the collapse of a company culture riddled with secrecy, favoritism, and unchecked power. Within days, the world watched as a celebrated CEO was stripped of his title, a high-flying HR executive vanished from public view, anonymous whistleblowers aired damning claims of manipulation, and a wife's silent but strategic countermove became the ultimate act of retribution. But the truth behind the chaos goes deeper than a single, awkward, televised encounter. To understand how a company's reputation could collapse so completely, so fast, you have to look at the months, perhaps even years, leading up to that fateful night. Andy Byron, the polished, once-admired face of Astronomer, had cultivated an image of visionary leadership and unwavering integrity. His AI company, valued at over $2 billion, was a darling of the tech world, drawing investors, top talent, and glowing media coverage. Yet, on July 16th, less than 15 seconds on a stadium jumbotron tore apart everything he had built. Camera crews scanning the crowd at Gillette Stadium paused on Andy seated next to Kristen Kitt, Astronomer's head of HR. It was clear from their reaction, the tension, the averted gazes, that this wasn't just a casual outing between colleagues. Multiple sources now confirm what many inside Astronomer had allegedly whispered for months. Andy and Kristen had been involved in a lengthy, secret relationship. That brief, blurry clip exposed what staff had only discussed behind closed doors. The CEO of a billion-dollar company was now frantically containing the fallout from an affair made public. The world had become witness to the consequences of unchecked behind-the-scenes politics at Astronomer. But what made the situation especially damning wasn't just the revelation of the affair. It was how Kristen Kitt's career trajectory had unfolded, her ascension from a new hire to chief people officer in under 8 months. Industry insiders now say her rapid promotion, which bypassed years of conventional career building, raised red flags among staff long before the Coldplay controversy. As former employees tell it, this wasn't a case of hard work and meritocracy. Kristen allegedly wielded immense influence at Astronomer, with final say on promotions, hires, and even company culture. Those who questioned her authority, raised concerns about Andy's behavior, or challenged nepotistic promotions reportedly found themselves marginalized, demoted, or quietly removed from the organization altogether. According to insiders, this wasn't just unhealthy management, it was a corporate power consolidated into a monarchy, with Andy and Kristen as its unspoken rulers. Whistleblowers describe an environment where loyalty to Andy and Kristen was rewarded, while dissent or honest critique could derail careers. Some say Kristen's HR team quietly weaponized silence. Complaints about leadership, ethics, or hiring irregularities allegedly landed in her inbox before mysteriously disappearing. Meanwhile, employee stock options, once hyped as a path to financial security, ultimately left many staff with nothing while Andy walked away with millions. Kristen's role wasn't just as a silent accomplice, according to former employees. Multiple sources now allege she was instrumental in designing systems that reinforced Andy's control, from opaque hiring practices to off-the-books bonuses and deals that never appeared in official records. Some claim she was Andy's firewall, actively shielding him from internal criticism and ensuring the company operated by their own unwritten rules. What made the Kiss Cam clip so incendiary wasn't just its content, it was its timing. Employees and even senior managers are now speaking out about the toxic double standard at Astronomer, a public commitment to integrity, diversity, and accountability, while behind closed doors, those ideals were routinely ignored or suppressed. When staff tried to address concerns, retaliation came swiftly. Promotions were rescinded, promising projects were reassigned, and careers stalled for those who didn't toe the line. The culture of fear and favoritism wasn't anonymous gossip, it was an open secret, whispered about in private Slack channels, referenced in half-joking asides, but never challenged in the open. According to one former manager, senior leadership was so cowed by the prospect of retaliation that even those who wanted to speak out feared losing their livelihoods. And when HR complaints were filed, they reportedly went to Kristen's desk and never to be heard from again. Behind the public-facing success, astronomers' leadership was allegedly hollowed out by what some insiders are now calling weaponized silence, an environment where questions weren't welcome and honesty could be career-ending. It wasn't just internal grievances that suffered. According to multiple ex-employees, Kristen played a leading role in reshaping hiring and promotion pipelines so that only those loyal to the leadership duo had a clear path forward. These weren't always the most qualified candidates, but they were those closest to Andy and Kristen, giving the company's leadership an iron grip on internal politics and decisions. Yet for all his showmanship and public charisma, Andy's empire was built on shaky ground. While he remained a masterful pitchman for investors and the press, the foundation beneath him was reportedly cracking. The Coldplay concert and the world's sudden scrutiny served as a turning point, an event that brought astronomers' internal rot into public view. But why the camera lingered on Andy and Kristen that night and not other couples remains a matter of debate. Some believe it was a targeted move, orchestrated by someone who knew exactly what they were exposing. Multiple reports suggest the viral clip first emerged from a former astronomer employee who had left the company under questionable circumstances, recognized the pair instantly, and saw an opportunity to bring their story into the light.
Whatever the motivation, the effect was immediate and catastrophic. Within 48 hours, Andy's LinkedIn profile was wiped clean. Kristen's professional bio was erased from all astronomer platforms. The company's board reportedly launched an emergency internal investigation, while public relations and legal teams scrambled to contain the damage. The video spread only accelerated the collapse. As view counts soared past 50 million, astronomers' leadership reportedly entered lockdown, with attorneys combing through internal communications, Slack logs, and email trails to assess the scale of the damage. According to one former HR associate, some senior executives even tried to delete digital evidence linking Kristen to key hiring decisions, in a last-ditch effort to control the narrative. But the story was already out. Employees, former staff, and even some investors were watching with a mix of horror and vindication. Whistleblowers who had been silenced for years now began sharing their experiences, detailing a pattern of retaliation, career sabotage, and a culture where ethics were sacrificed for expediency. As the scandal exploded online, Andy Byron, Andy's wife, made her own calculated move. Without a single public statement, she quietly removed her husband's last name from all her social media profiles, a symbolic gesture that resonated far louder than any PR-managed apology. Internet sleuths recognized the move instantly, and public sentiment shifted in her favor. According to sources, Meghan had already retained legal counsel before Andy even submitted his resignation. She wasn't waiting for explanations, she was preparing for battle. In the court of public opinion, her quiet act became the ultimate statement of poetic justice, earning her unofficial status as the queen of quiet revenge. Kristen Kitt, on the other hand, simply disappeared. No apologies, no farewell posts, not even a LinkedIn update. Within 72 hours of the clip going viral, her professional presence had been erased. Records show she logged out of company systems the day after the scandal broke, vanishing from both the organization and, in the minds of many, from responsibility. Andy wasn't forced out without compensation, but his exit package was reportedly far from the golden parachute some expected. Interim leadership stepped in, but Astronomer was now a company in free fall, its brand tainted, its culture exposed, its investor confidence shattered. Once a sought-after employer in the talent market, Astronomer's recruitment pipeline reportedly dried up almost overnight, with candidates withdrawing applications and the company's reputation now radioactive in tech circles. The fallout extended to Wall Street. Stock prices didn't just dip, they entered free fall, with major investors backing away and citing a failure of leadership, integrity, and oversight. Insiders close to the situation acknowledge that the real damage is structural. Andy and Kristen may no longer be with the company, but the culture they helped create and the crater they left behind is still expanding. Current and former employees, once isolated by fear, are now reportedly organizing in private forums, collecting evidence, messages, and testimony. Some are preparing for litigation, with whispers of a class action lawsuit over wrongful termination and stock fraud. If those lawsuits materialize, Astronomer won't just be fighting for its image, it could be fighting for its survival. Beyond the fate of a single company, this scandal has reignited calls for real oversight, transparency, and accountability at the top of major tech firms. When leadership is unaccountable, when internal channels for critique and redress are compromised, the results can be catastrophic. The story of Astronomer isn't just about two people caught in a compromising moment. It's about how unchecked favoritism, fear, and a lack of accountability can bring down even the most outwardly successful companies. And through it all, Andy Byron remains silent, strategic, and unstoppable. Her every move calculated and confident. Meanwhile, Kristen Kitt's whereabouts and future are unknown. The board is left to pick up the pieces, while employees, investors, and the public at large ask what happens next. Will the full truth ever emerge? Will more whistleblowers come forward? Will the lawsuits materialize? For Astronomer, the hardest questions are only just beginning. But the real lesson here is simple. When leaders place themselves above the rules, when they weaponize loyalty and silence dissent, they may enjoy power for a season. But sooner or later, the stadium lights always find them, and the world is always watching. If you found this investigation as riveting as it is revealing, drop a comment, share what you think, and subscribe for more stories just like this one.